football today. Okay, I'll hit start recording.
Okay.
And it's streaming. So we're
All right. Well, everyone, welcome to Next Level by Association and Your Next Level Now. Guys, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine that I met. I was invited to this event, and it was being put on by Evan, and I didn't know Evan, but I went and listened. I was like, this is a really cool event, and we just got to talk a little bit afterwards. I was like, I really enjoy his story and who he is as a person, and so I invited him to come to Next Level by Association, our live event, and our dinners. And we just had a great time. And he came over to the house and we just kind of spent some time hanging out. And over the course of the years, we just got to know each other a little bit better. And I just really, some of his unique personality traits, some of the things that he does uniquely, we're going to discuss that today. But I really want to share with you guys the man, Evan Money, and not the speaker, not the coach, not the trainer. I really want to share with you guys this incredible man that I consider a real gift in my life. And although we haven't been in the same room for a few years now, I've always had such kind thoughts and such high regards for this man. So Evan Money, welcome.
Bob, thank you. What a tremendous welcoming. And I have to tell you, I still carry forward many times. It is one of my go-to stories. I still tell the Bob Donnell and John Elway story for anybody that wants to understand. Like, oh man, we always talk about the grass is greener where you water it, and so everybody thinks, oh man, that guy's living the life. Oh, he wants to do this, and all John Elway wants to do is be Bob. So I share that story often, and I also. It comes up often as well, and I'm explaining it to my young adults now we got 19 and 16, and the premise that I still remember the parking structure that we were in as we were walking up, as you were telling me the story.
Yeah,
and it equates from the ancient scriptures of just keep asking, keep knocking, keep seeking, and that still plays in my mind. So when you have these next level conversations, you can get around next level high association. It's not I gotta talk to that dude once. It's like, no, man, these things that we talked about, that we shared, are still paying dividends, still in my daily life. So
yeah, likewise.
And I remember that event too, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I remember that.
It was so cool. And I just remember how cool the event was. And then when I got introduced to you and just to hear you speaking here, coming to your story, I was like, wow, this is really cool. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that was, I think, in Long Beach, wasn't it? When we went someplace else. And and I remember walking back and you saying, well, what feeling do you want to have? And I said, well, it used to be, this, but I love Mercedes. I love the Mercedes logo. And we had this great conversation. And I remember you said, well, what kind of clothes? And I said, I really like just like Chucks and jeans. And we walked by a Converse store and you go in and get some Chucks. I'm like, no, I don't really need them right now. He goes, go in and get some Chucks. I go, man, I really just get some Chucks. I started wearing those everywhere. I still have them. And I just, every time I put them on, every time I think about it, I go, I remember Evan Money and I walking. One of the things I really remember most about you, and we're going to talk about how many times you've been married, because, most people have that as a negative connotation, but we're gonna explain, let the cat out of the bag. But we're gonna talk about that. But I think one of the things I really want to share with people is like who you are as a man, who you are as a husband, who you are as a father. Because every time I hear you talk about your kids or your family, I'm always moved to this place of gratitude for the man that you are. So let's talk about, how long have you been married now?
Okay, so
it's the first time.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Let's count back. So, okay, so I've been married 29 times, and that includes 29 honeymoons.
Woohoo!
Yes, and yes, for sure. So, but to the same woman. So we have, calendar-wise, we have been 25 years. But the ultimate goal, and Bob, you and I have been around long enough to know the greats, right? And you remember the other Bob, and he shocked us all by leaving this planet early. Of like, wait a minute, Bob, where you going? You're supposed to have your 100th birthday and all this. And you remember Jack LaLanne and some of these icons, but the end goal is 100 weddings by my 100th birthday. So I've got to double up, triple up, quadruple up. And Bob, you've been there, I know, where you know you've shifted in life. You know you've crossed over to a different demographic when two things happen. Number one is I've just discovered we're listening to like satellite radio in the car, and the 80s came up, and my kids love 80s and we love 80s. And I pointed to the screen and it says oldies on the screen. And I'm like, what? The 80s aren't oldies. And the kids start laughing. They're just like, yeah, it's old. And then the other thing is when you start getting the River Cruise brochures in the mail, that's when you know you've hit another age demographic. But I share that to share that those river cruises look cool, because that'll be like 9 weddings in 9 different countries right there. So it's like, oh, here. So our thing is 100 weddings by my 100th birthday, but we get remarried in a different state or country every year. So it's a different adventure, a different place, a different thing. And so that's kind of our strategy.
Guys, take that in, because I remember the first time he shared it to me, I'm like, okay, I get it. I didn't get it. I was like, wait. In a different country, I mean, a different place every year. Is it in a different place? I'm like,
different state or country.
Wow. So out of all the places, all those different places, which one was the one that left the biggest memory on you and your spouse? And what's your wife's name? I forget.
Oh, yeah. So my bride's name is Susan.
Susan.
Yes. And so for those that want to see me with hair, oh my gosh. And Flo, you can type this in. So evanlovessusan.com. That is a website that has pictures of all 29 of our weddings. So as we're talking, you can click through and go, oh, check that out. I'll answer the question, Bob, but I'll preface it by saying it's not about the destination and the details, because we've had some epic ones. We got married at the top of the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. We've been married at the top of the bridge, the Sydney Bridge in Australia. We've been married in the water with dolphins in a private dolphin wedding ceremony. We've had these incredible, amazing experiences. But again, it's not about the destination and not about the details. It's about the dedication and the devotion. And something magical happens each time. It doesn't matter if it's this amazing place all the way around the world, or if it's this quiet little church in the mountains in the middle of nowhere. That same dedication, devotion comes out. And that's the thing that most people miss. And sadly, the Western culture, Bob, you understand, right? Weddings are like this, and you've had a few, right? This mindset of everything has to be perfect and it has to be this. And you say wedding to a woman, and they're just like stressed out. And so it's like they miss the whole bliss part of it. So once you get into wedding 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 20, it's just fun and it's relaxing, and the honeymoon is so much better. And so that's the preface. But some of our favorites for me, mine, because of what it was involved in, is a friend of mine used to coach for the Green Bay Packers. And so we got married at Lambeau Field, and we had a big ceremony. People came from all over. And during the vows, so he wrote the vows for us, he's giving quotes, Bob, that are about love and togetherness and commitment, but they were all Vince Lombardi quotes. So I'm crying because it's football and wedding, and my bride's crying because it's love and commitment and all this. And so he had his polo on, he had the whistle, like it was this full football immersive thing at Lambeau Field. So that to me was one of my all-time faves. But again, each one is different for a different reason. So it's kind of like kids, right? You love them the same, but they're different experiences.
Right. Depends on the day, right? What I love the Lambeau Field thing story, and I love the Green Bay Packers story. So let's jump into that too, because I think that's again another unique thing about you that very few people would ever experience for themselves. But so maybe they're experiencing, or I'm experiencing it vicariously through you.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So we're going to jump to a faith-based model here and something, but totally different. We're going to turn around and upside down and spin it around. So my first Green Bay experience, Bob, was such an awakening. So I'm like, okay, well, if we're going to do this thing, we're going to do it. And so I went out beforehand to like check it out. And then I knew better to bring my bride to Green Bay during the winter. So we had a summer wedding. So it was a much nicer experience. But during the first time I go out there, I met my first tailgate, Bob, Green Bay Packers tailgate. Now, for us born and raised here in LA, tailgating is a different thing here, especially with old Raiders games. That was just trying not to get killed and make it to the stadium where, in other cultures, right, tailgating is like this thing. So I'm at my first Green Bay tailgate, and I'm just taking it in, Bob. And I'm like, this is pretty amazing. And I see the prototypical tailgate guy, right? He's got the truck. He's got all the stuff, right? He's got he's got the beer belly. He's got the tongs. He's got 50 different barbecues and like this thing. And I'm just like, all right, this dude's a pro. And literally, God stopped me in my tracks, Bobby, whispers in my ear, and he says, watch this. And so here's the dude, right? And this guy walks by. This looks like a normal Green Bay guy walks by, and he goes, hey, brother, good to see you. You want a beer? You want a brat? Let's talk some football. And I'm just like, well, that's what I would expect, right? It's 9:30 in the morning. Let's have a beer. Let's have a brat. And so I'm like, okay, whatever. And then God goes, no, wait, hang on. Then this other guy walks by, and he's got a different skin tone. He's got a different vibe. He's got a different aura about him. And you can tell he doesn't vote like this guy votes. He doesn't listen to the music this guy listens to. I'm like, this will be interesting. And you know what the guy says with the tongs and the thing? He says, hey, brother, good to see you. You want a beer? You want a brat? Let's talk some football. And I'm like, interesting. And then the pièce de résistance, Bob, a person walks by with the other team's jersey on. And I'm like, okay, here it comes, right? Like, what's going to happen? And here's the guy. He looks in the eye and goes, hey, brother, you want a beer? You want a brat? Let's talk some football. And I was like, And God whispered to me, he goes, this is what I wanted the church to be. And I'm like, tailgating and football. And then it hit me. It's like, this guy's whole thing is, hey, what unites us here? How are we united instead of what divides us here? Like, oh, you don't look like me. You don't listen to the kind of music I listen to. Oh, you're cheering for the wrong team. No, he says, what unites us here? Well, we all love football. Hey, and some people like brats and beer at 9 a.m. Like, it was all about unity. And then I discovered, which I didn't know about from a corporate standpoint, certain like public corporations are big now on like culture and what do we stand for? And what's the mission statement and all this? So lo and behold, the Green Bay Packers have had a mission statement for over 100 years. And it is unity and greatness. Unity and greatness. And I was like, wow, what if the Western church said, hey, we want to focus on unity and greatness instead of division and this is our thing and that's not their thing. And I was just like, whoa, totally blown away. So that's another reason why the Green Bay wedding and all that means so much to me. And I still wear it, even though it seems to have shrunken in today's giant Super Bowl ring world. But I still have a Green Bay Packers Super Bowl ring from the 2010 year. I call it the last of the human-sized Super Bowl rings. And because again, now they're like this big and all this. So with that, I'm able to share that story whenever I wear that ring and wherever I go. So
it is really cool. It's a really cool ring, and to see it is really cool. But to hear the story behind it is even better. Evan, you live this everything that most people see is just this charmed life. I mean, you've got the great wife, you've got the long-lasting marriage, you've got the great kids, you've got the beautiful place. You travel all over the world, you speak all different places. What was the most difficult time in your life?
Yeah, there's been many dark days. And so you mentioned this, the charm life from the outside, and a lot of that is by design. And I say that because you've got two choices in this world, and it's either more than enough or it's never enough. And it's one or the other. and I see people that are in pain and they have so many problems and their life's a mess and all this stuff. And it's like, oh yeah, they're just like, you take your phone, right? What happens when you go like this on your phone? Whatever you open, right, expands, right? And Bob, you know this. You've been around Tony since the 80s, right? You know, whatever you focus on expands.
Right.
And so a lot of people are expanding on, it's not enough. I don't have enough. It's not enough. It's never enough, right? Or it's enough for a little bit and then it doesn't last, right? Versus, man, this is more than enough. Oh my gosh, this is so amazing. Oh my gosh, what about this? Oh. So again, the grass is totally greener where you water it. But with that, I had a normal dysfunctional family. So let's raise your hand if you can relate with that. And so, yes. And so my parents were divorced at a very young age. And to this day, I'm still processing through that, through the pain, through the issues, through the father-son drama, all this stuff that's caused.
Yeah.
And I saw both my parents marry multiple times. Just again, we can go on this whole dysfunctional cycle, right? But I still don't know who my mother's father was. And so you've got all this crazy, like 21andMe. It's like, well, it's going to be like 121andMe because nobody knows, right? So all this massive dysfunction. So this life of pain and problems. And so early in my teens, I went down a very dark, sexually dysfunctional hole. And those are things that, again, I'm still processing through today. And so that was a very, very dark time. The only thing that kept me alive was I knew if I committed suicide that I would really hurt my mom. And I knew she couldn't handle another blow. So I kind of, muddled my way through high school. And then I hit my biggest depression in my, I would say, late teens, early 20s. Where I made decisions that were, again, just based out of pain and problems, based out of a ultra low self-image and crying out for male mentorship, but not knowing that I needed or even how to ask for that or even know that was a thing, not knowing how to process emotions, just dark, and just kind of fumbled my way through until it's very interesting, Bob. People talk about, you're so committed to to marriage and all this. And where did that come from? And I tell people all the time, Bob, it comes from pain. And so I saw three options as I was, awakened, right, to like, oh, this is divorce, and this is remarriage, and this is divorce again, and this is this. And so I'm in my early teens, late teens, and I'm looking around, Bob, and all I see are three options when it comes to relationships. You can either be married and miserable, and I saw that modeled everywhere, or you could be divorced and desperate. I saw a lot of that. Or you could be single and cynical. And I was like, these all suck, but I'll just be the single and cynical because that seems to just carry me through and get me enough survival, right? And just keep going. And finally, there was an awakening, and so our marriage, a whole thing that we structured and put together, again, is all about rebellion and pain. I'm like, I refuse to live in those three options. So the only other option is, how do I figure out happily ever after? So I used to think happily ever after was a place, Bob. Destination disease. We've all been there, right? As soon as I get there, right? There is better than here. As soon as I can get to where Bob's screensaver is, then, right? Like, again, there's better than here. And then the second I get there, it's like, oh, it's the new here. And then it's like, oh, shoot. So I kept thinking, we all had this destination disease. My bride and I kept trying to find happily ever after. Where do we have to go? What do we have to experience? Where is it? And then we finally realized that it wasn't a place. Instead, it's something that my bride and I created every day, every moment of every day. So you come to my house and my kids are like, my parents are the weirdest people in the world. They run around and dance and cuddle and kiss and scream and yell and have fun together. And I don't see other kids' parents doing that. And so, but they've grown up in it, and they've grown up in the discussions around the dinner table. Where are you getting married this year? Hey, can we come? And doing things like that. So I realized it's all about intentionality and saying, hey, what kind of world do I want to create right here, right now talking to Bob Donnell and saying, how intentionally are we going to put this together instead of a reactive, this low, what I call, there's, again, back to the two choices, right? It's either live in your human nature, fear, lack, shame, guilt, doubt, or you can live in your divine nature where all of that is gone, but it's just a choice of like, hey, where am I going to live? What am I going to live in today? And I'm still working through it, right? Like my bride and I, we had a great, amazing date night Saturday night. And the traffic at the 405 was not helping. And so I slid really fast right into human nature and like, oh my gosh, these people are my way. What's going on? But it's really just that moment to moment of like, hey, am I going to live in my human nature or I'm going to choose my divine nature? And the choice we make is everything, right? Classic John Wooden, right? We have a choice to make, Bob, and everything we say or do. And in the end, my friend, the choice you make makes you. So it's just these daily choices of, man, am I going to choose my divine nature? Am I going to choose abundance? Or am I going to sit in fear, lack, and shame? It's one or the other. I got to choose.
Love it. Love it. You brought up this, you fall into human nature, traffic on the 405. How do you coach yourself out of that so quickly? Because it's not what we do. I mean, it's not what happens, but it's how we respond to what happens. And then even if we respond poorly at the beginning, we can coach ourselves out of that. What did you do to coach yourself out of that situation? Because that'll probably work in any other situation as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. And you said it, so it's key. And again, two choices, right? You said respond. But during that 405 incident, I was not responding. I was reacting. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So again, that choice, right? So first of all, it's all about, let's talk tech. I know you have some people listening. They're tech people. We're in this tech world, right? Like, did you get the new iPhone, right? Have you seen the new M2 chip and the new computer, right? Everything in the tech world is about, rhetorical question, but it's all about how do we make it faster, right? And smaller. How do we get so I can process quicker? Boom, 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 boom. So that's the same with me and with you, Bob. It's not about, I used to spend an inordinate amount of time and energy in shame and guilt. And, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm here again. Oh my gosh, why am I doing this? Oh my God, that, right? And I realized, okay, that doesn't serve me at all. So how do I go from reacting to responding and just, how do we get that microchip from? So in the old days, I was running Apple IIe software, and it would take me weeks and months and years to get over things. And now I would like to say I'm at that Apple M2 chip where it's just like boom, boom, boom. And what's really helped me, because people say like, well, how do you flip the switch when you don't feel like it?
Yeah.
And here's what's helped me tremendously. What I've discovered just recently, Bob. This is big for me here. You've probably taught this in a different way, but this may help some of the people listening. So what I've discovered in our human nature, in our base state, our human nature will always pull us towards being the victim. Always. And I was like, why? Like I couldn't figure out like what is the draw? What is the payoff, right? Why does my human nature pull me to victimhood? And then I realized it. When we play the victim, then that means we don't have to change. Right? Because we're the victim. Hey, I'm the victim here. It's not my fault, right? Hey, like I'll give you real time. My Saturday night. So my bride and I'm like, okay, we're all excited to go to this amazing play. We're going to Beverly Hills. We're gonna have a great time. We're gonna eat afterward. Maybe do some shopping. We're gonna have this awesome time. And I'm like, I already know how the freeway works. So we're leaving an hour earlier. So an extra hour just to make sure, because I'm like, I don't want to stress and like, okay, I got to hurry, right? So I'm like, I've got plenty of time. It's like leaving to the airport 5 hours early, right? If you're stuck flying commercial, right? Like, okay, we're going to leave super early. So I leave super early. We're driving, and next thing you know, we're on the 405. We're at a dead stop, right? Like helicopters flying, like the whole thing's melting down. And I go into reaction. I go to human nature. I go to victimhood because I'm saying, hey, what the heck, man? Like, I planned this extra time and now the freeway breaks down and woe is me. Because if I'm the victim, I don't have to change and I can complain and scream and yell and react.
Right.
So
Right.
my bride and I, how we got out of that is we real time started talking through it. So she looks at me and says, gosh, you haven't acted like this in a long time. I'm like, I know, if these people weren't in my way. And I'm like, and so I just started processing it. I'm just like, yeah, my human nature wants me to play the victim because, and we just walk through the whole process, right? Like, hey, I took this extra time. This shouldn't be happening. Why is this happening? Right? And so by just real time naming it, opening up and walking through it, I was able to process it and get back to, okay, let's get back to having a great time. Let's get back to doing this. But just that understanding that our human nature wants us to play the victim so we don't have to change and take responsibility. And here's an oldie but a goodie, Bob. Responsibility, the ability to respond, okay, and not react. And that's what this is what I champion in our house and to my kids is all, I mean, you talk to my kids about responsibility and they're like, oh, here goes dad again, right? Like, we're going to talk about responsibility. But here's me not taking responsibility because I want to react and play the victim. So again, instead of playing the shame, guilt, blame, why are we here? All this is just how fast can we process it? Yeah. How fast can we get back to the divine nature and just releasing the shame and the guilt and all that stuff? Because again, that just doesn't serve anything. And understanding, this is the other thing that really helped me, Bob. And again, as our listeners can tell, I specialize in long answers to short questions. But what I've really discovered is there's just something about our human nature and realizing this. And you've got a few months on me, Bob, but we know that this human experience, as long as it lasts on planet Earth, as long as we're having a human experience, we're going to have our human nature. So it doesn't go away. It's not, oh, that seminar didn't stick, or, oh, I lost my faith, or, oh, this. We always have our human nature with us. Yeah. And so once I embrace that of like, okay, this is never going to end. This, how do I get through this faster? Like, it's always here. It's similar. You know, Bob and I were in Southern California, and we've had some challenging times where it's actually like raining. Oh my gosh, right? But no matter where we go on planet Earth, there's sun, there's rain, there's day, there's night. And yeah, I know if you're up in Alaska in summer solstice, there's no more night and all that stuff. But anywhere you go on the planet, there's night and day, there's sun and rain, and it never goes away. And so those are there so things can grow, right? When you have sunlight and rain, things grow. Okay. Our human nature, as much as I don't like it, is here to help me grow. So getting all caught up in this, oh, I haven't arrived yet, and why am I still making those mistakes? And just embracing the fact that I'm always going to have the sun and the rain. I'm always going to have nighttime and daytime. I'm always going to have my human nature. So let's embrace it. Let's grow with it and continue to get bigger computer chips so I can process this stuff faster and help others while I'm doing it. So there you have it.
Wow. You know, I love the way you break it down because, well, one, I love the vulnerability and the actuality of life, and you sharing that. It's kind of like when Tiger Woods hits a bad shot, it gives me hope. You know, I can hit a bad shot too. So maybe one day I can play. But I love the fact that you kind of shared that this is as recent as Saturday night. You know, it's not like something one and done, you're over. I really appreciate you sharing that. You know, we've had some really good conversations over the years, you know, whether it be on the road, traveling, and speaking on different stages, whether it's been at my house or at Terranea resort in up by your house, or at that little chapel that we took the little 3-wheeler that you have.
Yes.
You still have that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I still keep the Batmobile. Yeah, that is tucked in the garage, nice and safe. Some of the other cars are,
you still have your Speed Racer car
outside and with the car cover, but yeah, Batmobile gets the inside warm treatment.
The Speed Racer car, you still have that?
Oh yeah, still got it. Yeah, it's all about adding to the collection, Bob. I don't think I'll ever catch Jay Leno, but it's, people are like, oh, you got a new car? Did you get rid of that? I'm like, no. Why would I want to get rid of it? Add to the collection.
Love it. Love that. Um, you know, what's next for you? I mean, you've had this great career, you've had this great lifestyle, you've gone through the heartaches, you're still working through a lot of things, which I absolutely just love that, the next level pillars, every next level will demand a different you. I love that you are constantly evolving. So what I want to know, what's next for Evan Money?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that, Bob, because I'm in the middle of it right now. So I'm at a stage where my core companies, I don't do the day-to-days anymore. And so I have a lot more time, and I realize, how much 98% of the world just stays in survival, right? They're just, classic, they translate it now, but Bob, the old MGM logo with the lion, right?
Yeah,
And he's actually yawning. He's not roaring, but just a little fun Hollywood segment for you. But in Latin, right, the secret language, right, of the world, in Latin, it says above the lion, it says art for art's sake. And now they actually put it in English just because people are like done with Latin. But I see most people in their lives, Bob, they're working for work's sake.
Agree.
Instead of really living, or they're just surviving for surviving's sake.
Amen.
And that's where I was during the darkest times of my life. And so now I'm in this stage, I have this time, and I'm just like, wow, I've got time, I've got money, I can go anywhere. It's like, where do I really want to go? What do I really want to do? And I'm looking, for example, like, okay, what is next? Like, so I'm transitioning fully out of some of my businesses. And then I'm like, okay, what is it that I really want to be doing? And so, of course, I started a new company. And so it's been a dream of mine for a long, long time, only because the industry, I think, has been so challenged by people's human nature and people making it something that it's not. But I started a direct selling company, Bob.
Really?
It's called IGWT. And the website is igwtforme.com. So maybe Flo can throw that up there.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
We're in this unique time where money is changing. Like I'm talking to my 19-year-old son, Bob. We're having these high-level discussions on like, what is money? So like you and I, we come from the old world, right? Where money was something you stuffed in the mattress. Remember that, right? Like, look at all my money. Look, I've got, it's tangible, right? And you've seen it, right? Like everything is cashless now. Like, how do we get away from cash? How do we move away, right? Now money is this. This is money. Like my son has never seen a paycheck because it's all direct deposit and right in, right? And he's like, what, like just even terms like grandpa talking about, I used to grab grandpa's check and take it to the bank. And he's like, what is that? How does that even work? Right. Yeah. So we're just seeing how what money even is. Right. And then it comes down to this, but I'm like, well, what is work? Like, what is that? Like you and I, we were alternative lifestyle pre-COVID, right? You and I, we were on a different plane. And the world's like, oh my gosh, how do I work from home? How do I do all this stuff, right? But now work is shifting and work is changing. And so what's really next for me is this full embrace. So I'll leave you one last gem here. This full embrace of what's called the Avoda lifestyle. So I love God, but I'm anti-religion. So everybody understands where I'm at on the spectrum here. So in the ancient scriptures, if you look at the old ancient, like Bob, I know you've got a Gutenberg Bible probably on your shelf somewhere, right? You break that baby open. But if you look at the old Hebrew scriptures, the word for work is the same word for worship. Now, it's not a hyphen, it's not a subword. It's because the Hebrew is such a rich language. It is the exact same word. Work and worship are the same thing. Now, if you fully translate it, right, because you understand about translation and language and all that stuff. If you fully translate the word to the English language, the Hebrew word is called avoda. And if you want to sound really spiritual, you could say avodah, but it's avoda. And avoda is work, worship, and service. Work, we're all the same thing. And the challenge we run into in Western culture, right? Hear me, feel me, watch this. Hear me, feel me, watch this. In the Western culture, we walk into, and they still do it in my church, walk into a church and they say, okay, quiet down now. It's time for worship, which implies, oh, you can't worship anywhere else, but right here, right now, to this music, to this style, right? And then again, you get in this culture of Western religion. They're like, oh no, like worship is here, and then work is like something you do way over there. Like work's like all the way over there, right? The opposite plane, right? Like worship's here, work is like way over here. They're totally separate. And then depending on what kind of church you go to, right, they'll usually list like at the end or during the middle, like here's some service projects, especially for Christmas time that you want to sign up for, implying that what you're doing is not serving because it's not this, right? So we're programmed to think like service is over here, worship is over here, work's over here, when in reality, it's all the same thing. So like you and I are modeling the Avoda lifestyle here. We're having a next level discussion. We're not, separating this and this and this. It's all the same thing: work, worship, and service. So you mean I can be worshiping while I'm talking to someone about a new product or a new thing? Absolutely. You mean I could be in service to someone while I'm quote unquote selling them a product or selling them a house or doing this or doing this? Absolutely. And then people say, well, wait, but I see people all the other time that are doing that on a negative way. Exactly, because it's all intentionality. What is the intention here? Is my intention to live the Avoda lifestyle while I'm working, I'm worshiping, I'm servicing? Can I sell someone a house and be worshiping at the same time? Absolutely. You know how excited people are when they get a new home, right? It's just like, woohoo. I mean, that is a worship time. So jettisoning this old thinking and saying, look, I can work, worship, and service all at the same time, all at the same place. And so that's what kind of our IGWT for me is about. It's about saying, hey, what if we looked at direct selling just as a lifestyle and realizing that, hey, I don't have to ship quote unquote products anymore. It's not about the next widget that's going to give me new hair or do any of this or all this. They're more growth-minded products for growth-minded entrepreneurs and for people that want to grow, people that want to have amazing experiences. We have a dolphin swim and a Porsche racing outing. We have, hey, meet and greet with fun celebrities, or we have a personal growth coaching program like you're doing, but it's all based in this direct selling model where people can just make it a lifestyle.
Very cool.
Like, hey, this is what I'm doing. There's nothing weird about it. And it's just like, here we go. So that's kind of what's next. And thanks to technology and thanks to where the world's going, we can kind of explore that. And again, I am full on. The sign is open. We are looking for leaders and people that want to create unique cultures and say, hey, this is the culture I want my team to have, instead of like, forcing it upon them. And hey, this is how you're going to dress and this is how you're going to act and this and this. It's like, hey, I'm going to create a place where leaders can come, create their own culture, and have the freedom of realizing, hey, I can leverage all of technology and create this business while I'm working, worship, and servicing and having a great time with my kids. So
huge. That's exciting. That is really exciting. So Flo's put in the website and everything, so we'll follow that up. I just want to ask you, one thing I've always appreciated about you is you're a great thinker. It's not like you just adopt a thought because somebody said it. You really do the research, you do the work, you really find yourself. We've had some really good conversations. I remember, sitting in a restaurant, having a conversation with a few other guys and just having conversation. I remember, times of us sitting at my house and Terranea just sitting there and just having, a 3-hour lunch. And you guys, you got to remember this. His last name's Money. So I always tease him. I love going into a restaurant with him and they go, last name, please, Money. How great is that? I want to change my name to Money. That's just such a cool thing. But where did that come from? Where did that ability to really think beyond just the word, like you just mentioned with work, service, and worship? Where did that come from?
Yeah, well, I'll share with the name too. The Money's a cool last name, except when you walk into the bank or somewhere else and they call you Mr. Mooney. That's one that's like, My kids get it sometimes. Like, it's so funny how people outthink themselves.
Yeah.
Because they're like, okay,
So
it
true.
can't be money. It's spelled like money. What? It's so hilarious. My kids are just like, Mooney? Where did they get that? Anyway, so yeah, the second you change your name, you're gonna get a lot of Moonies, and you're just gonna be like, wait. So I just want to prep you, just let you know.
Okay, okay.
It's coming. Okay. So with that, I think thinking that is, man, that's like a 3-day seminar that you and I can do together. But I'll share this story. I heard John Maxwell told me the story, and then I actually lived it, and I was like, okay, this is my story now. So I'll put it to you this way. So we're sitting at the fancy airport lounge, getting ready for vacation, going somewhere. My son is probably 15, I'd say, at this point. And at the fancy lounges, right, they have these different magazines and different advertising. And so he hands in his catalog. It's a catalog from the airline of saying, and this goes to other discussion on what is money, right? Remember when your airline miles just bought you airline tickets? Now it's like, hey, buy a TV, buy this,
Right.
buy that, use all that. Right? So it's this high-end catalog on what to spend your points on. And so my son, in his brilliance, walks up to me and says, Dad, we need to get this. Oh, no, I'm sorry. He says, you need to get this. And I'm like, oh, I need to get this. And it was a stand-up video game, like old school, like full-size video game.
Okay.
And it was Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, I think it was. And I remember this game. He goes, Dad, I remember you telling me about this video game.
Uh-oh. You froze. Looks like you're frozen, Evan. Flo, can you see him? Is he moving on your end?
No, I don't see him.
I see the picture, but
I see the picture, yeah, but he's
Okay.
he is frozen.
There he is. Is he back? Nope. Evan, I think. How about refresh your screen and see if that works? Because Flo and I are still on, so.
I don't know what happened. He froze.
Yeah. I'm just sending a private message to him to see if
His internet went down.
maybe his internet, maybe so I send it to him. Let's see what he says. Well, yeah, we lost his picture now even.
See if he tries to get back on.
Yeah, I sent it to him. Otherwise, we will just have to continue the conversation.
Right. A lot of great nuggets. Took lots of notes.
Yeah. What was while we're waiting, what was something that stood out to you?
Well, it all married together. We started out with dedication and devotion. Now, let me bring myself on here. So he started out with dedication, devotion from his 29 marriages to his same bride. Right. And then it went on to, I'm sorry?
We don't see you. All we see is a black screen. There you are.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know why it took.
Okay, so it started from the marriages.
Right. So the dedication and devotion, and then he kind of married it with his avoda, the work, worship, and service. It all kind of went together, like in the way he's told his story and answered your questions were great on getting all of the encompassing everything from dedication and devotion and saying it was intentional and why it was intentional. So all these stories led up to why everything is intentional due to dedication, devotion, And I love the human nature versus divine nature, and you have that choice. That was like, that was wow.
Yeah, Evan's just one of these great guys that, no matter where we've been, in another state, in a bar, in a restaurant, at a resort, in a car, at a house, it doesn't matter. The conversation is always meaningful, purposeful, intentional. And I just love that about him. And obviously his story about his bride and all of that is incredible as well. He he's this really radiant, excited guy, and with so much depth. So I think I love that contrast in him, that he can be excited, he can be a kid, he can play, and yet he can go immediately right down to that depth of a conversation, or something of really substance. So really, really kind of cool. Well, I don't know where he's at. His internet may have lost, or I'm not sure. So we'll have to continue this conversation. Well, it just gives us an excuse to have him back. So
Yes,
but
that'd be great.
yeah, so we'll get in touch with him, guys. Make a comment on here. Let us know you're seeing this replay or live. Share some of your takeaways that you took from maybe something that he shared. Share a takeaway. Follow him, on the links that we're providing, so that you can check him out. He's an amazing guy, lots of depth, fun to be around and hang out with. And so make sure you follow him, and let him know that you saw him here on Next Level. What? Any final comments, Flo?
Some Facebook comments from Mike Beardsley saying he was still on Facebook Live, and he said, best cliffhanger ever.
True, Mike. It's like, is he coming back? Don't know. But we'll have him back again, because he's one of my favorite people, and we're going to try and have to get back in the same room together, because he's just a great person to be around. So, guys, follow him. Let us know. Anybody else making comments that I can't see him. So
nope, those are all that I could see.
Okay, and I know we've got a broadcast out to YouTube and Facebook groups and Facebook message Facebook pages. So we'll go and address those guys. Guys, get out there, make it a great week.